Oh. Recording in progress.
Recordings in progress.
Good to know. You guys have good notes up to that point?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Everbridge, just needs me to spend a little time on it.
You don't want it to fall off the radar.
It's one of the 25 Post-it notes that's still on my desk.
I have no doubt. And for everybody,
But I've cleared like 20 Post-it notes over the last couple of weeks.
how many more did you put up though?
We don't talk about burnout.
Just let me talk about the good stuff. Okay. I've been maintaining regular contact with Timmy Nuccio and Jeff Gordon during the legislative season. And they have been very good also about reaching out to me. Myself and a lot of the other communities have been advocating very hard during this session for our various representatives to push back on Hartford's habit of asking us to do more stuff while at the same time taking away funding. Educational cost share, they never actually provide us, there's a formula what we're supposed to get, they never actually provide it, they always cut it. As I've mentioned in the last couple of meetings, the casino slot revenue funds, we're getting 1/10 of what we used to get. And there's $152 million sitting in that fund right now. But the state level, people have been using it to balance the state budget, which just puts more load on the local budget by the money not coming here.
And the UCS has had no cost of living adjustment since what, 2013?
Yep. So the good news is they've been very responsive, and I don't know how much it's helping, but I've been on there, reminding them regularly of our needs in the small towns. The session does not close until May 6th, so we don't really know the final outcome until May 6th. But probably the most shining example of the difference between the current fiscal year and this upcoming fiscal year is last year there was money to balance that change in how car taxes were done. There's no money this year for that. Last year that was almost $92,000 of the state. That is zero. It was like 91,400 or something. That's zero this year. Wow. So, that's a loss in income right there for revenue, whatever. I have received quite a few complaints from people about speeding in town and people asking if the town's willing to consider speed cameras. I've mentioned this before a little bit in our town update thing and all that. We have the various signs around town that Public Works puts up. We're gathering the speed data from those signs right now to see what that tells us. I've been talking with the speed camera company. You see it on the news. They're talking about Middletown and Marlboro and all these other towns that have started doing it. I've started talking with them about what the process would be, and we will probably look to have a session maybe for the three of us on Public Works first. It would be a meeting, it'd be open to the public because it would be there, but it would be a session for us first with like an online dog and pony show from the company about how it works, and they have a lot of data about how it changes driver behavior and safety in the community and all that stuff. And then there is a revenue component, which I don't think we should ever make the first priority, but if we're looking to find money to pay for safety improvements, new speeding signs, whatever, the source of revenue is good, probably would cover some of our public works budget.
Would that require an ordinance?
Yes, it would require an ordinance, it would require some town meetings. The state rules are very specific about how that, so it's not gonna happen without people knowing, that's for sure. A lot of work with school building committee, which happens right after this. Review and file records of gun transfers. Every gun transfer affecting a resident of Willington gets a notice sent to us. We have a filing system for that required by the state. The good news is the people of Willington are keeping the gun vendors in business, and so we get a lot of things to file. And approved plumbing and electrical work. The hot water heater on the side of the building went the other day. They went to replace it and discovered it was not wired correctly. And so I'd have the electrician come and fix the wiring so they could put the new hot water heater in. And I did notify the bargaining units in writing about the health insurance changes, which we have to do. We have to notify them within a certain amount of time in the contractual language that we may be changing the health insurance vendor. So that was done. No significant, they're very, they understand where we are. They know what's going on. That's it for first selectman report. Okay, we can probably do our state police report in the same thing. Are there copies for the other guys of the state police report, or is that just for me?
Just.
Okay.
for you.
All right, I'll pass it around. So, no, that's okay. So big uptick in the monthly calls for service, nearly a third of what the previous year's call for service in 1 month.
What was the bulk of that?
Well, I think a lot of that was, weather related, traffic accidents, things like that.
What time frame is it covering? Just the month?
This one is, looks like this is the month of February. Oh, no, there is March in here also. So there's a 3-month look back. So it's just weird that it says it was the 3rd of March it was received, but it shows March numbers.
I mean, it should be March's report since it's the beginning of April, so that should be the report in March.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. I don't know.
They don't make it easy to,
Yeah,
It's not very,
it's always hard to understand.
seems like there's a lot of data, but not much information.
you see it, like it.
Anyway, so that's good. I'll pass that around. There's like you said, there's a whole bunch of data here. And as you can see, there's a big focus on Interstate 84.
Imagine that.
Yeah, and then certainly some of the larger state roads.
32, 74, 20.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe 44 or something.
Okay, so that's the end of the first selectman status report. I don't have anything scheduled for new business. Bill's good with that? Keep on moving. All right, old business, school building committee update. Mr. Marshall?
No, so I feel like I'm not gonna give from the back of the bus here.
Okay.
How are you guys? Thank you. Good. Yeah, so we can take as much or as little time as you want with this. But now that the committee's had a couple of months under its belt, we've onboarded some of our consultants and are really starting to dig into the grind of the work of developing a consolidated school project. I wanted to take the opportunity to just come in and give you an update on kind of where we're at. I know some of you have been paying attention, Mike and Ralph, you're pretty much every meeting as well, so thank you. But also just as another forum, this being a different board than the school building committee itself, the more people we can reach, particularly while everybody's paying attention to budget season, the better off we are. So by way of update, we've been at it for about 2.5 months now, and it's been a very busy 2.5 months. The first stage of our effort, once we all got onboarded in mid to late January, was really about doing the due diligence, getting some of the procurement and consultant onboarding work done in a fairly quick and aggressive timetable, with the goal being to be able to onboard them in time so that we still maintain the ability to submit a grant application before June 30th, which is still our anticipated target to maximize potential reimbursement eligibility. That discussion is ongoing with both our local representatives and the Department of Administrative Services. So we are looking to see what opportunities there are, clarifications on some of the specifics of the grant, of the new legislative changes that happened this season related to early childhood education, and potential cost per square foot legislation that I know we've talked about before, but that is coming into play and what the impact may be of this school project. So we are looking at ways of making sure we can maximize and maintain our eligibility for reimbursement. Also seeing if there's opportunities to extend the duration without losing that eligibility to allow for a more robust community engagement and community outreach process as applicable. Our first and foremost priority is making sure that any project we do is as cost effective as possible for voters to decide on. And there's a lot of work to do to get to that point. So with that said, we've onboarded Collier as project leaders as our owner's project manager. They've been with us for, I think, about 4 weeks now. And as of about 2.5 weeks ago, we have onboarded Tecton Architects to be our architectural and engineering services team for the grant application development effort. They have hit the ground running, which is great. The team, we were really impressed by all the candidates for both roles. But both of us really stood out as having the ability to understand Wellington and to hit the ground running and keep us on track effectively and efficiently. And they've proven to be able to do that quite well so far. In the past 2 weeks, just having onboarded Tecton, we've already gone through and they have evaluated an analysis of the enrollment projections and a reconciliation with the, not enrollment projections, but the educational specifications. Thank you. And did a reconciliation with the updated enrollment projections. They are now using that information following a joint meeting last week with the Board of Ed to discuss the same to start working on conceptual designs based on that program. We are exploring still a variety of options, including new construction on a future to be determined site, construction on the Hall School site, renovation, an addition renovation project on the Hall School site, and everything is still on the table. The committee is working to vet potential site opportunities in the background. The committee, while we were onboarding this consultants, we did a update to the property evaluation search to see what properties have changed in 3 years, what potential updates for availability there may be. That information has now been forwarded along for comment to both our OPM and the architectural team. They've done an initial analysis. So that work is ongoing. The architects only got it last week, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. And we are working to see what we can do to vet whether new site opportunities are viable in the window that we have or what the impact may be if we extend out. Trying to think what else I'm missing. Community outreach, we're waiting on a schedule from the AE architectural and engineering team to assist the committee in doing some community engagement workshops, information sessions. That's going to probably ramp up very quickly over the next month or two. And yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. So like I said, that's where things stand now. I will say a good deal of thanks is due to the members of the committee because it's been a lot of work. These guys have been great. We're meeting sometimes twice a week, sometimes in marathon meetings during the day where people are taking off work so we can interview teams. They've really been responsive. They're working all the time, outside of our meetings as well, and working groups trying to help move this along. This committee has really been a working committee from day one because it has to be. So I'll personally thank everybody that's serving on the committee because they're doing a great job. And without their attentiveness, we wouldn't be on target, to maintain the schedule that was, quite frankly, 50-50 when we started this based on how late we got going.
Whether it was even possible.
So we are moving along well. We're moving along effectively. There isn't anything thus far that is out of line with earlier expectations. But again, the devil will be in the details, and we need these designs to start working through the budgetary aspect of this, of all of the options. So we appreciate your support and thank you guys for moving along the action items that we do send along for approval. We do have some site due diligence going on at the Hall School site. Just updated environmental site assessments. There's so much. So I think that covers the bulk of it for now. But there's going to be a lot of activity over the next month, in particular as they start to get early design options. So please stay engaged. And just to everybody listening now and on the recording that we've started, yeah, now's the time to get engaged and to put your input in, because the decisions on, yeah, we need your feedback as a community to understand what options are going to be viable for the community. The important thing is that as a community, the community, we come together and advance a consolidated school project, because that is whatever form the community is willing to accept is the cost-effective scenario for this school problem. And I say that having a joint role on CIP and understanding what's coming, if we can't do something cost-effective with these schools, the committee will be kind of understanding what the impact is for a failed referendum as well. And if we have to implement some sort of phased renovation, kind of what that, weighing the consolidated school option against the alternative, even though we're not betting, it's not that we're not betting, we're not doing an updated existing facility assessment, because that work has been done repeatedly over the past couple of years. What we are going to do is try to understand what the financial picture is of that option, because it's all on the table as a counterpoint. So,
I know you have a meeting that starts at 7, right?
no.
Oh, you don't? Oh, no, that's right.
No, we don't. Our next meeting is Monday at 7:00.
That's right.
We are upstairs. I will be remote for that one, my first one, but
Adam's been doing a pretty good job.
yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I think the expectation and the schedule we were up against at the beginning of this was steep, yeah, to say the least. And through you, I imagine probably thinking about it 24/7. And all the committee's work. I think amazing groundwork has been laid to start getting all the right things in motion so that the right due diligence is being done and the right information can be in front of the townspeople. And something in particular I just wanted to comment on that I really appreciated about the chosen architect at the I guess must have been the last school building committee meeting, and one of the representatives of Tecton kind of went on a short spiel about recognizing the sort of historical and cultural impact and value of Hall Memorial School, and the sensitivity to how that is handled about what happens next with Hall School in any of these different options. And even to the point of, if there would be a new school, particularly if it was on that site, would there be some of the character or a nod to the Hall School, not just the name, but a nod to the building or whatever carried into the new building, which is something I felt very good about, because I think that the fact that the architect recognizes this is one of the many factors for the townspeople that needs to be talked about, I thought was really good to hear. So I'll leave it at that. I just wanted to comment on that being a positive.
We they were impressive. Honestly, we had a great interview with them when they were interviewing for the role, and they hit an understanding of all the points. I think from the get-go, they really did their due diligence prior to coming to meet with us, and it shows that they've been very attentive, particularly given that what is a very aggressive schedule, and that's the architect and me speaking. It is aggressive, and they are putting the a full-throated attention to it. So we thank them as well.
Yeah. Is there anything for Jim?
Not for me.
Thank you for the report. Thanks for us.
Well, I'll express my thoughts to the next Monday.
Oh, please do. And again, the more feedback, the more input. We open every meeting looking for a dialogue and a public discussion, short of the more formal engagement sessions that we'll have. But again, spreading the word, anything anybody can do to just continue to raise awareness. Because now's the time for engagement, not 2 months from now when we're When we're.
That will also be time for engagement.
Well, that will also be time for engagement, but that needs to start.
Yeah,
now,
right away,
or continue, now, so thank you, everybody, and thank you online, and please engage, thank you very much.
Cool. All right, next item is continued discussion of the present to speak, question, the topic we discussed last week. If it's okay with both of you gentlemen, I'd like to open up to the public again for some comment on this topic.
Absolutely.
And then we'll do some more talking about it. We're not set to make any decisions tonight. It's just discussion.
Well, a lot of things to add to the discussion, so.
Yeah, good. I'll start in the room. Is there anyone who wants to comment on this, what we've been talking about, improving present to speak and finding better ways to engage? So continuation of the last meeting.
For now, I'll hold off.
Okay.
See if later, maybe later, but
Pedro Dietrich, 97 Trask Road. I hope we come to an outcome on this that is not the result of the town attorney deciding it for us. It seems like in recent years, the practice is to do some sort of risk assessment, tout the town attorney's opinion, and discourage all public involvement. And I would not like to see that happen. I have concerns about the so-called two-way dialogue in present to speak, because that is the public time. And often what happens is that's if someone expresses an opinion, they're immediately rebutted by a member of a board or a town official because you had the temerity as a resident or taxpayer to voice your opinion, and you're immediately flooded with facts that are only in the possession of the town government. So it seems like an unequal playing field to me that I would not want to see changed. I understand that the need for someone just wants to ask a question. When is the late bus at a Board of Ed meeting at Hall School? They can't ask that question. But I would like a simpler way of managing that versus the boards or town government sticking their thumb on the scale, so to speak, which is easy for them to do because they control the facts, they control the narrative. They always want, every administration wants to control the outcome. It's a natural tendency of government to do what government does. And we want to have more than 3 people at these meetings. But it's discouraging for townspeople when they do come to be received. Thank you.
Peter, may I ask a question, just so I understand? You're advocating that when it's present to speak, that if I stand up and say something, the board would just say, thank you, and not engage and not.
That's correct.
That's what I'm hearing, okay.
You're correct. I don't think there should be a two-way dialogue or a conversation. And incidentally, that could be endless in terms of meeting time. And again, who has the upper hand?
No, I just
The
want to make
board
sure.
or committee you're in front of because they're controlling the meeting. Well, we're out of time. My opinion counts more than yours.
That is the way public hearings are done. You don't engage, you just listen. Okay.
So here's where I sort of help you prove your point. Because I'm gonna review a couple things you said. You have been for years, you and I attend a lot of the same meetings, have for years, and you have been advocating for more interaction and being able to get information. We are now at the precipice of solving that problem, and now you are saying, I want to be able to go to a meeting and tell you my viewpoint of things, and you don't get to correct me. That's a problem also, because if you spend decades asking for dialogue and two-way communication, but then say you want to control when it's one-way communication, that's just turning the whole thing on its ear. You know, we've talked about over and over again that there doesn't have to be any presence to speak. And I'm very much against the idea of going to that place. But there doesn't have to be any presence to speak. There doesn't have to be any public input in a meeting. I think that's a terrible idea. But that is the way it is, because the work is actually supposed to be done, in this case, by these 3 people. The meeting is only required by law to be accessible to the public, not participatory, because this isn't a town meeting, right? A town meeting is where everyone who shows up, who participates, gets an equal opportunity and power and vote and all that other stuff, right? This is the work of a board or a committee, and we want the input and we want the interaction. And this is what I am. It would be easy for me to say, oh, let's just stay the way it was. Present to speak is the way it was. You say your piece, we say thank you, we move on. But then a lot of people, including you, have complained that you don't get answers to your questions. So I feel like you're sort of asking to have it both ways. Like you're saying, I want to be able to get answers to questions when I ask them. But if I say something, whether it's right or wrong, you don't get to throw facts at it. We are limited here to facts, at least as we know them or have them. So we don't get to do opinions up here. People come from the public and express all sorts of opinions. That's a right, privilege, responsibility even to present their opinions. But it ends up on the record. And so correcting facts is going to continue to happen. And that is, as long as I'm on this board, correcting facts is going to continue to happen, because we cannot have public record after public record created that doesn't solve the factual problem, because anyone else who watches the video or reads the minutes will not be able to interpret what the rest of the information is. So that's part, we're creating a record for history. We want it to be as accurate as possible.
I don't want to take up too much time.
No, go ahead. It's supposed to be.
But I want to strongly disagree with that characterization. I've asked that there be more feedback from the public and that feedback be allowed, because I think it's important, as this board or any other board, as it deliberates, gets that feedback. And the critical element there is unfiltered feedback. We should be getting that feedback from whoever comes to these meetings or whoever's online, and not have it dismissed as disinformation because this board or any other board controls what you describe as the facts.
But that's our responsibility.
Yes, when you're deliberating amongst yourselves, but you have a larger responsibility of letting that decision-making be influenced by whatever feedback you get from the public. And you should not have the last word or filter that out or declare that your facts supersede what someone says.
That is our responsibility to do that.
And we will.
You can't say that we were elected here to do a job, okay? And we have to do it as best we can with as much facts as possible.
Amongst yourselves.
Right, but we're trying to get more participation. It can't be one way. You can't get to say, I get to opine on whatever I feel like, and you don't get to correct me. That's not public interaction.
Very much.
That's speeching. That's preaching.
This sounds very much like an attempt to police present to speak and decide which commentary you like and which commentary you don't like by so-called establishing.
I never said like or don't like. And we do get the privilege to establish facts because we got elected, and it's our responsibility to establish facts. And if you don't like that, I'm sorry, but that is my responsibility, because you're not the only one I'm responsible to, right?
Exactly.
There's 5,400 and some other people in this town. And if you or anyone else accidentally or intentionally has facts that need to be corrected so that the public knows what the actual information is, you can laugh all you like. People come with wrong information all the time, not intentionally, some intentionally. But as long as I'm on this board and you can vote me out in the next election, as long as I'm on this board, I'm going to try to correct the facts. And you can challenge me all night long on this, Pete. We've had a lot of conversations about official information and people's opinions. They both matter. But when we're in a meeting, we're going to get official information. We're going to correct things that are errors or misunderstandings so that the record is correct and the public knows the right information. And that is absolutely, absolutely not debatable as far as I'm concerned. So feel free to vote me out.
I think you proved my point.
I
You will
believe
have the last word.
if it's about facts, I will have the last word. Yes, if I know what the facts are, because the public deserves to hear the truth. And when I'm wrong, I get corrected, and then they'll hear even better truth. John, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll speak now. I'm sorry, Peter, but I'm on your side on this one. The only thing being that I keep hearing, well, it might take too long, but you don't accomplish anything in a discussion if you cut one person off. I know where he's coming from, because especially in previous administration, I could get up and speak and present to speak, and an individual might say, I have to correct that. And then when I say, well, I want to rebuttal, you're done. And
It's highly selective, once
now,
again.
when we talk about facts, I don't know that there's that many facts to be corrected. If I get up here and I say, I think, what we're proposing to spend on that new truck is too much, and you say, you think it's fair, okay.
Those are just two opinions.
Which one's a fact? That's an opinion.
Yep.
But still, we can try to change each other's mind. Ultimately, you get to make the decision. But I would like to feel that I have it. And I think here we're only talking about present to speak on this particular issue.
Well, we're talking about a new version.
Well, present to speak, and also, is that different from participating in the?
It could be, we're open for discussion. That's what we're talking about, is what will the new version look like? Will we go back to the old present to speak, or will we come up with something new?
I like the new one, and again, I feel it should be a discussion all the way, and then ultimately you guys are gonna make the decision.
And I do agree with there may be opinions back and forth, like your truck example, absolutely true. What I'm talking about is if someone in the audience says, that new truck is $300,000 and that's outrageous. Well, if the truck happens to be $400,000, I'm gonna correct that.
Okay,
Just for the facts, not to pick on that person, but just so that people listening will hear what the facts are.
okay, I understand that. But
Well, I'm confused. I thought Peter, you said there should be no discussion for president to speak, but John, didn't I just hear you say you'd like to have discussion during president to speak?
yes,
Okay, all right, so you guys, you said you agree with him.
no, I said I disagree.
Oh, you disagree, I'm sorry, okay. All right, just so I know, I'm not saying who's right or wrong, I'm just wanting to understand.
All right. I'm gonna opine on this topic, if everybody will allow me. I think that the school building committee has actually established a precedent that I kind of like. And that is a segment of time at the very beginning of the meeting that is open forum, Q&A, whatever. It has a finite period of time. It is intended to be back and forth. If there is an agenda topic farther down the agenda, the person, during that Q&A back and forth, it would consume too much time, can ask if the board judges their input to be valuable, that they can speak when the agenda item comes up. Okay, so we can judge the amount of time per person in this forum in the first half hour. We got 10 people, 30 minutes. Well, do the math. That's about 3 minutes apiece. Not everybody's going to take 3 minutes. And not everybody's going to speak either. But they're going to be present for the discussion. Now, we do that in the beginning. We have a fixed time during the meeting at which we have to start business. Not to cut people off, but we don't want to be here all night. Nobody else wants to be here all night too. So we do the back and forth in the beginning of the meeting, go through our agenda, and have present to speak at the end, where we can get judged on, or we can hear opinions on everything that's transpired since the first forum, since the beginning of the actual business. That's my thoughts on the topic. Obviously, repetitious comments we don't want. We don't want over lengthy diatribes either. We want relevant conversation in the beginning. And I think Jim has done pretty good with that on school building committee. And I like that format. And I don't see, there's certain situations, planning and zoning is a different animal.
It is.
Yeah, there are some legally guided requirements there.
Correct.
Yep.
But we don't have those. We really don't have those kind of constraints here on Forest Lake.
No, we don't, but some of the practices have some merit. Even even though we're not legally required to follow.
No, I know, and just my
Yeah.
thoughts on how we could deal with
I,
it.
no, I'm a big advocate of getting the public's opinion.
And if they know they can come here
Right,
in that first part of the meeting and
right.
just have a free conversation.
Right. And I was thinking about the facts, like if somebody stands up and says, hey, I don't like it that the dump is closed every Saturday, we should say, no, I'm sorry, the dump is open on Saturday.
Right.
We should, otherwise, if we say thank you, we sort of agree that, yeah, the dump is closed on Saturday, when it isn't. So those are, when I hear you say facts, that's what I'm imagining a correction of the president to speak would look like. Other than that,
Yeah, not trying to override opinions.
no, right, and right, we welcome opinions, that's where we learn from, but if somebody does say something that is just, I don't know, wrong.
I wanna go to Nick in just a second here, cause
Yeah.
he's had his hands up for a while.
Yeah.
Pete, I wanna say I agree with you about the lawyer thing. I would like to rely on the lawyer's opinions a lot less. And I would like to rely on contacting the Freedom of Information Commission less. The problem is those are the people we get held accountable to and through. And the amount of people that bring traffic through the first selectman's office by email and everything else that has legal challenges or legal ramifications to it is quite honestly depressing. And it means that my responsibility as first selectman is I have to determine what is the legal basis for how I answer these questions, because then if I don't do that, I put the town in legal peril by not understanding what those ramifications are. I will always bend where there's flexibility towards local decision, public input, public participation, less legalese whenever possible. But there is so much these days. There are people posting stuff on social media making legal accusations. Like it's rampant. And I have to, in my job, be aware of if I'm putting the town in legal peril or not. It's just, I have to do it. If I wasn't doing it, you guys would be running me up the flagpole saying, what in the world are we paying you for? It's unfortunate. I don't want it to be that way. I agree with you, but I don't have a choice in that. I just want you to know it's not out of some desire to make the lawyers rich. I promise you that.
I want to add to that quickly, once the motion is made and seconded, then public participation has to stop. We cannot invite the public into our deliberation once a motion is on the table.
I think the only time we would
We
not do that is if there was a specific factual
Correct.
matter, if there's someone in the audience,
An
like if we
engineer.
have to ask, maybe it's, we asked Jim Marshall about something specific about the school building committee that we're talking
There's a
about.
resident, if there's an expert.
Or John Blessington might have been selectman when that issue was last
Correct.
addressed, we can get some factual
But
information.
it would be specific and it would be.
Not an opinion,
Right, it wouldn't be a.
Facts for deliberation.
Fact-based deliberation.
I think that's important.
But we just can't
That's
have.
that was the point I was trying to make in the Q&A forum. That's a perfect opportunity for someone we know who has relevant information.
Right,
Yep.
A chairman of the board or committee or commission
right.
can reserve time on an agenda item.
John would be able to spell proletariat for us, right? Remembering the last meeting?
Yeah.
Nick?
So, Nick Tellermyrtle, I'm grateful that there's a movement to improve. So thank you for that. I think the last 2 years, across all the boards, we started seeing improvement down that path. There is concern though, in a small talk in town, small groups, people are not wanting to participate because sometimes there is an opinion back and forth. Now, you and I mean, we know we can go back and forth, right? But a lot of people don't want that, right? They can't handle that, and I understand that. So I think being able to counter from any board, or we'll talk board of selectmen, back to the person speaking on a factual level, may be appropriate. I think the one concern I have is, like, say somebody says, hey, taxes are going up, not 8.9%. And then the board comes back and says, well, it's only a 4% increase or something, whatever it may be, right? Both factual informations both sides are kind of counter each other. I think the person, and just using this as an example, right? The person could come back and just counter with whatever factual, but you don't want to have a back and forth bickering either at the same time. But you do want to have factual information. And I know, Mike, maybe you might not want the person in the public to have the last word. But as long as it stays factual, I think like a 15-second or 30-second rebuttal from the public is an appropriate timeline, maybe. Me personally, I think present to speak. One thing I think the SBC, I know this board of selectmen is kind of failing the town, is that they only have one participation, present to speak, and I hope that the board of selectmen stay with two, because that encourages people to speak. When you see a board go to one, it kind of says we don't want to hear your voice, right? And that's just not me saying that; that's other people, small groups saying the same thing. So I hope we say two present to speaks, allow factual rebuttal, and sure, the board rebuts, then it rebuts, but allow 15 seconds for the other to counter. But I would like to kind of see that dialogue more so stay within like a topic participation than in a present to speak. Rebuttals and present to speak, I think it should just be present to speak, no other comment, and then if we're going to have rebuttals, let that stay in the topic participation. So.
Thank you, Nick. One thing I'll point out, which is not a rebuttal, by the way, is that you may find it interesting that we actually did not have two present to speak sessions in meetings until COVID. For the most part, most committees, I believe, had one present to speak. And I think it was during COVID when we went to doing Zoom meetings that we started doing two. I know that's when I was chairman of the Board of Finance, that's when we added a second present to speak, because we had gone to all Zoom meetings. And it was such an unusual arrangement where everyone was all just on screens, and we wanted to increase the public input. So that's how we ended up with two. So I'm not sure where this goes. Maybe we stay with two opportunities. Maybe because we're still online, for some of it. Well, I just want to let you know that, up until about 5 years ago, a lot of committees only had one.
Was that in the beginning or at the end?
It was at the beginning.
No.
So people could make their comments about the issues that were going to be talked about that.
Yeah, and what I was trying to express is we're still going to have two interactions with the public. The first one is going to be very interactive, and the second one is reactive to how the meeting transpired or some additional thoughts that may have come up in the public's mind. But not the latter one. I wasn't thinking it was going to involve a lot of intense back and forth. Yeah, more of the old traditional.
Melissa?
Sorry about that. 55 Mahaliak Road, Melissa Miller. Just want to say thank you for all of your hard work that you do. But I just wanted to point out, I sort of like the two opportunities for present to speak, because it does help people. Sometimes they don't know all the information, and after they hear the meeting, maybe it clarifies something, and maybe they don't need to ask their questions, but maybe they actually want to clarify something more that they heard in the meeting. So I think sometimes that's a good idea. The other issue that I just want to say is that, a lot of people, they do feel in town that it doesn't matter who is in control of the boards. And it just seems that some people just feel like they feel intimidated because they feel like when they speak something that they're just being poo-pooed and not actually being heard, and I mean, I know sometimes we, listen to respond instead of listening to hear. And just my suggestion is just to really not try to belittle somebody or make them feel like they shouldn't participate. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. I completely agree. No one on any boards, no one elected or appointed to serve the public should be belittling people for their wanting to participate. I agree. Jen?
Hi, I have so much to say about this topic, and clearly the more input from the folks who live in this town, the better. Um, I There are so many opportunities for people to engage with the people who are on the boards, and email, call. So if people's goal in present to speak is to be heard by the general public, that's a different goal than wanting to be heard by the board. Um, I I obviously, as folks know, sit on a lot of boards and have the opportunity to sit in the room where I really do see the same faces meeting after meeting. And it doesn't really matter what the meeting is. It's the same people that come to the meetings. And I appreciate that tremendously because I'm one of those people, because obviously I'm here right now. But there are many avenues to get communication needs met. And I don't see this at all as as a kind of some kind of ploy to silence people in town. That there I think that the organized way that Ralph was talking about the Q&A at the beginning of the meeting, like the school building committee is doing right now, is is perfect. And I'm gonna just harken back to one of the meetings I listened to in the previous administration, one of the first ones. It was an hour into the meeting and it was still present to speak was still going. I I I want you guys as the Board of Selectmen to do your work. And I think that is the thing that people tune in for. And to me, that is the most important thing.
Thank you. Jim?
Yeah, good Marshall, Fisher Road again. Yeah, I'll kind of segue at the end of the prior comment. There's statements here because I think they're well taken. As somebody chairs two boards that have a tendency to be very long meetings. The reality is the committees, they're working meetings. The business of the committee or the board needs to be done. And communication, like there has to be a limit. It's what it boils down to. From my perspective, having people just speaking at me is a completely ineffective president speak format. Because that's all it is, it's speaking at you. And there's no opportunity to engage, there's no opportunity to develop a dialogue or, some sort of a joint understanding of his concerns. So that the committee can actually understand what topics are before you. The school building committee format is quite effective, or it will be, I hope, quite effective if it's managed well. And it really is, that it is treated as an open conversation and that it's a respectful dialogue between the two. I think it's proving to have some success. So I would tend to lean towards that. We do it a different way on CIP, and there's less of a need for that dialogue on CIP to a degree. But if I had to, I think I'd love to do it the way FBC does it, quite frankly, all the time. And Jim is right. There is plenty of opportunities and ways for people to, get in touch with the relevant boards. I wish we got more emails across the board. If you want to make a statement, that's the way to do it so that we have it for record, quite frankly. So I don't know, the dialogue format, but the defined point at the start of the meeting is really, I think the way to go. Just so that business can be entertained and we're not there till 11 o'clock at night on a 5-hour meeting, quite frankly, because it'll happen.
Hang on, Don, I just want to there are other people online. Michelle?
Hi. So I agree with what Jim was saying that the school building committee dialogue at the beginning makes a lot of sense and works. I think it works in part because it is managed well and because it's a concrete, specific topic and because it's time limited. It does not work at every committee. So I would want you to be very thoughtful about setting a policy that would influence other boards and not just the Board of Selectmen. So if you're talking just about the Board of Selectmen and how this committee, this group wants to work with people, you don't have to do it only through present to speak. For example, if someone only sees the YouTube link to these meetings, nowhere do you post your email addresses or your information about how to call you. So there are other ways to put the information out there. You could have public hearings. You could have, come meet the Board of Selectmen at the library for coffee. We've got free coffee and donuts once a month. There are other ways you could do this to bring people out. Nothing like donuts, right? I saw you smile at that, Andy, right? I'll come. There are definitely ways that if you want to do this, there are a lot of ideas that you can do more outreach. I would very much ask this board to not continue to have the open policy where we discuss things when you get to it in the agenda. I know that's the way you've been doing things over the past, 4 or 5 years, but it doesn't always happen that way. But this board has sometimes stopped and gone depending upon who's in the room. And so often it is for something specific, but you often let people in the audience speak more than once. And it is much more, I think, engaged. I think you guys have a better control over the meeting, but I think that speaks to the training of the person running the meeting. I've sat on that side of the table, and meetings can get out of hand because a lot of the things we talk about, people are passionate about. And I think it's really essential that there's training for people who are the chairs and co-chairs or vice chairs of all of the town boards so that they know how to rein in a meeting before it gets out of hand. There has to be time for rebuttal for facts that are inaccurate, and there has to be training so that the chairperson stops immediately any conversation from the public during present to speak if it becomes personal, or if it becomes agitation and leaning towards violence. And I have been in those meetings where people have started to shout, have stood up, have been threatening, and we've never received any of that training on how to manage that. It doesn't happen often, but you need to be aware that that's also why people don't come to meetings, because people are often unpleasant to one another. Not necessarily at this group because it's well managed. You don't have a ton of hot button tickets, hot ticket buttons that are pressed, but you really do want to think about how to manage and keep the conversation civil, but also fair and factual. Thank you.
Thank you. John, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I just wanted to correct the statement of fact here. I guess the second present to speak began during COVID, but there was no present to speak prior to when the first select woman Wyshensky took office, because prior to that, it was just open forum. And so there was no need for a present to speak. She was the one who instigated the present to speak, and no further participation. And I think it has evolved over time, to your point, and that unfortunately goes to Pete's point before about the lawyers and stuff. And if you look now, every meeting in every town has some form of present to speak. Not every meeting, most public meetings have some form now as a more defined time for public participation. And that is unfortunately the way the whole industry has gone. And it's about all this legal stuff, the stuff I've talked about before. So this is sometimes a little bit of an edgy conversation, but it's intentional that we have a difficult conversation because I want us to get to a place where we have something better. And so yes. I think what my feeling is, what we should be doing now is we can certainly discuss, but I think we also should try to bring some ideas back to the next meeting that we start actually trying to figure out if they're the right. We're getting bits and pieces of it right now from people. Mm-hmm. I think we should be trying to start sketching together a plan.
I've been to meetings at a legislative office building and with the intention of speaking. And the challenge there, of course, is you have to sign up ahead of time. Yeah. And if you're lucky, you may get to speak. Or they'll run out of time and shut it down, which is bad. Uh, but I don't know, this board has a tougher job in that we're not confined to a land use issue, a wetlands issue, a planning or a zoning issue, or, stuff like that.
Could be anything in town.
Correct. It has to do with the entire town, the proverbial town fathers, if you will. That's kind of what the Board of Selectmen role has been. And I don't mean fathers in the,
Biological sense,
yes, exactly.
Nor the religious.
I'm not trying to mean it that way, but we're looking at a variety of topics. And it's tough to restrict people from commenting on anything. We have to maintain decorum, I agree with that. We have to let people speak to a point of avoiding repetition. It's nothing worse than, multiple speakers repeating the same line over and over again. But there's just a whole host of topics that we need input on from the people who live in this community. I agree.
Pete, one quick other comment, perhaps you could take with you. I think one thing that worked successfully in the past was when you were able to come to the president to speak, you were anxious to be involved in a particular topic on the agenda, but you looked, you couldn't find any minutes. You don't have the packets that you folks have prior to coming to your meetings. So you don't know what question you want to ask.
Yeah.
But you hadn't gotten to that topic yet. And I recall, over the decades, we had this reserve, your president at time speak for when that agenda time came up. It was judiciously managed by chairs at that time and worked well. I think that could be successful again if it's managed properly. One last comment, I'm deeply disturbed when I hear we should try and somehow divine why people are commenting, who they're intending these comments, for. The First Amendment is the First Amendment. We're Americans, and we should always be able to express our opinion, and no government body should ever prevent that happening.
I see your point, but I think you might have missed the point. Let me try to help you. No one was saying that it should be regulated. I think if you're referring to Jen's comment, I think what she was saying was, if you want to get information to this board for deliberation, you have other means in addition to this here. You can email, you can come by the office, you can call on the phone, say, hey, Mike, I got an opinion about this. I really hope you'll consider this when you have your Board of Selectmen meeting tomorrow. And I think that was her point, was you have multiple modes of getting information in, not to exclude you from this. But if you just want to speak in the present forum to have people hear what you think about it, then this would be the forum for it, right? Because it's the public forum. I think that was the point. It wasn't restricting you to one or the other. It was saying, use the other tools. For example, Nick made a great point that he and I end up debating a lot of things. A lot of times it's on social media. There's nothing Nick and I will ever debate on social media that's actually going to change a decision made here. That's the world of make-believe out there, right? No one needs any facts when we're out there, right? I mean, some people's names aren't even their names out there. So the point being, if Nick might send me an email someday, and he might say, hey, I've got this question about something, or I'd like you to talk about this selectmen's meeting. That will be an opportunity for us, or he may come to the meeting and speak about it also. He has all of those things available to him. That's the point, right? And I use Nick as an example because, as he said, he and I go back and forth a lot, and so I think that was the point that was being made, not to restrict. That's what I got from it. So, Nick?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yes, I think the vast majority of us do have emails or different mediums that we can get information to you guys. But also recognize there's a segment of people out there that don't trust if they send it to one person, it's going to get to the others or whatever it may be, right? While yes, that may be a small sector of people, we can't discount that concern that those people have, right or wrong, right? At the end of the day. So just to kind of touch upon that brief point there.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's discounting that, Nick. I think the point is, and like if you send me an email and said, Mike, please share this with the other two selectmen, I'm gonna share it with the other two selectmen. You know, I'm not gonna regulate that. If it's public communication, if you ask me to share it with the other two selectmen, I will.
I think you would, and I think this current administration, while I have my differences, I trust that it would be shared. But there have been previous administrations where I personally had zero trust it would, right? And in the future, like obviously there's going to be different board of selectmen in the 10 years from now, right? Who knows if people are going to have concerns too, right? So it's just my 2 cents.
Thank you. All right, so I think keeping with the idea we've been talking about, I think we'll say thank you to everyone for the input. Now we're gonna discuss it a little bit. Thoughts, scratch our heads and bring some ideas to the next meeting?
Yeah, I think that's.
Got a lot to digest here.
And if you can think of things ahead of time, send them to me and I'll put them on the agenda.
Sure.
So that when the agenda goes out to the public, they'll see some of the options we're gonna talk about.
Yeah, and the agendas is another thing too, but I'd like, you've said it before, I'd like to see maybe a little bit more meat to some of the agenda.
Working on it, Hannah and I've been talking about it. There just wasn't much more meat to put in this.
No, not know this time, but
we are gonna work on it, right, Hannah?
if something's coming up that I hate getting hit cold at a meeting with an agenda item where I had no idea what the topic was going to be or the details of a topic. You know, very simple topic that really got complicated if you knew what the real story behind it was. Right?
That is the goal, absolutely. So, okay, so we're gonna bring ideas, try to get them to me in advance of the next meeting so I can put them on the agenda. Right?
Sooner the better, but
Yeah.
yes.
And obviously, when it's stuff like that for the agenda, that, make sure you're including Hannah on the email. Because
Yeah.
she will be trying to, just as Shannon has done, trying to put stuff together to the agenda.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. All right, thank you everyone for the participation in that. All of you in cyber world, all of you in the room, thank you. Good and welfare. Does anyone have anything? I don't know if I have anything new. Good and welfare. Oh, how did you bring that up?
I thought you'd bring this up.
Sweet Lord.
On April 18th, 2026, there is a Saturday night comedy show. It's to benefit Wellington Human Services. It is at
The Rockwell.
the Rockville Elks Club. Rockville Elks Carriage House, that is 9 North Park Street, Vernon, Connecticut. It starts at 7 p.m. I'm sorry, 7 p.m. it begins. The cost is $30 per person. It is a comedy night with a
Hopefully funny
Mark
person.
Riccadonna. I'm not familiar with him, but they say he's funny. He's a known entertainer. So this is a way that the Wellington Human Services Department is fundraiser for the various goals and missions that they have. And they encourage your participation. Again, it's at the Rockville Elks Carriage House, 9 North Park Street, Vernon, Connecticut. Show starts at 7 p.m. on April 18th. You can if you need to call for tickets, you can call 860-487-3118. And the email address is kcote, KCOTE @wellingtonct.gov. And that is Wellington Human Services. Thank
And
you.
this is to benefit.
The Human Services.
Human Services Program.
Just want to make sure I point this.
Yeah, they have a lot of programs, and this is one way, food bank. I mean, it goes in the fuel, a lot of different things.
There are a lot of programs that go to assist individual people in need in town, and some of those are not supported by taxpayer dollars, they're supported by donations,
Mhm.
and some great benefactors we have in town and fundraisers. And I saw it at work this winter, with people who had a sudden, major injury of their spouse who was their single source of income. And the department was able to, that same day, order them a tank of fuel oil because that person was out of work suddenly because of an injury, and that saved their house from freezing. And they are very, they're obviously very confidential, but they also work carefully. They don't just hand out money willy-nilly. It's very good work done by the department. That's it for me for good and welfare. Since we haven't heard, in 3 or 4 minutes, we're back to present to speak. We'll start in the room. Online, Jen.
I think Nick was first. I can wait.
Jeremy's a new, let's get Jeremy first because he hasn't spoken yet tonight. Jeremy Brothers.
There he is.
Oh.
Oh.
He's trying.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Now we can.
Sorry. I was just curious. I was just looking on the website when you said you could email people about committees and stuff. Like I was on there, I couldn't find like an email address on the website or on the committees. Is there a spot to go for that?
Each committee's website individually, I think, has it.
We're checking now, but each of the committees, if you go to the committee's web, if you look at the boards and committees at the top and you go to that specific committee, you should have contact. And as far as contacting the main office, if you will, there's a contact button on the main page where it will go to my email and
The town clerk, I
and
believe Hannah.
the town clerk, and yeah, it should go to Hannah now. Which that's like a general email also.
I don't think every board homepage they have a roster of members, but not all of those are hot links for email.
Should they be?
No, because not, like Stephanie's is there, says Board of Finance Chair Stephanie Summers, and it has her email address. So if you're going to a certain committee and you don't see it, just email the selectman's office and we'll.
Yeah, or call us and let us know, we'll update it.
Yeah. But at bare minimum, the chair's email should be available to everybody.
Yeah, and that's the proper way. If someone is reaching to a committee, they should go through the chair anyway.
Yeah.
And if you're email conversant, it's not hard to discern what someone's email address is.
Yeah.
And I think with the new election, we did make a very concerted effort to get all the new incoming committee members or chairs their own town email address.
So Jeremy, if you do know of one that's missing, please let us know and we'll fix it.
Yeah, okay. Like I said, I was looking on the website as you guys were talking about it. I couldn't find them all. Not all the emails, but all the chairs with the boards and committees. You know what I mean? Some like some of the boards I didn't see had them.
Okay. We'll take a look.
Just as a follow-up to that, sometimes the staff directory isn't easily updatable, meaning
It is tricky.
it could be hard to add if members' emails, if they don't have a town email and it's not in that directory, it's not always easy to get them on. Like the SBC has, you can get a directory. The only person whose email is on there is mine, because I can edit that portion on the site.
Yeah.
But I can't go in and edit, like, contact. I don't believe I can. I haven't tried recently, but.
You can always reach out to Hannah or Nicole, as admins, they can get in.
Yeah.
Cause I just went in the other day and updated the selectmen's page to reflect Hannah. And it isn't super easy to do.
It's fair for sure.
It is.
Nick
Nick Teller, Myrtle Road. just to piggyback on Jeremy's situation there, I've been seeing that problem since I've been in town for 5 years. It is sometimes hard to get emails. So I don't know if that's just an ongoing issue or not, but for 5 years I've been seeing that. I every so often will pipe up about, at least at Myrtle and Wellington Hill, about a safety hazard that continues to not be addressed. I'm sure probably CT DOT needs to be involved because it's 74 or not. But when you merge on from Myrtle Road onto 74, onto Wellington Hill here, the rock wall to the left as you're pulling out of Myrtle, if you're in a smaller car, you could have, you do, not could, you have issues seeing over that. Luckily, when I'm in my Yukon, I can see over it. But if I'm in a smaller car, it's hard. You're playing kind of chicken coming out onto Wellington Hill, which can be fun, but dangerous. So I don't know if, maybe the rock wall can't come down. I know it's personal property, so I am hesitant on asking people on personal property, but it is a safety problem. Maybe a mirror can be put across the street on a tree, at the very least, to kind of get eyes on traffic coming northbound, at least. And then my question is, it's very general. I was in the military. We had a chain of command. If somebody was in a relationship in that chain of command, you could not have, like, your supervisor could not be directly in charge of you. I'm not sure if that's how it is in the fire department. I'm guessing it is because it's government. This is not, I'm not saying anybody on this board or anything. It's hypothetical. In the town, because I don't think this is happening in any of these people on the board. I'm just saying, in town, if somebody was a supervisor, are they allowed to have their girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife underneath them? Just curious.
I see a lot of what ifs in that question, but if you have a specific concern, please email it to me. If you think it involves me, please email it to
No,
one
it's
of
not
the.
you. It's not you. It's
I'm
not you.
just, no, this is
Yeah,
a blanket statement, okay? And this
yeah,
is for
yeah.
everybody about any issue like this. If you have a concern about something inappropriate or unethical, please email it to me, mmakuch@willingtonct.gov. I will look into it. Put it in writing in an email. Nick, the same thing for your traffic sightline issue. I am unfortunately also, as part of this job, the local traffic authority, which means if you report something to me, I have to do something about it. I wrote down a note about the sightline. Also email it to me. I will refer it to DOT as the local traffic authority and ask them to take a look at it for sightlines.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
a state on.
It does have to come from the selectman's office anyway. We found that with the last administration.
Yes.
People would email issues all the time in with traffic concerns or whatever. The request had to come from the selectman's office.
Yes. Let's see. Nick, are you all set?
All set. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen.
Hi, I'm going in the Wayback Machine to kind of the beginning of the meeting where you guys were talking about the budget. If anyone can remember back that far, when you were talking about the budget, I am going to continue to beat this drum in as many forums as I possibly can. I am really hoping that at some point, on some level, one of the boards will take up the cause of a grant writer. That is a position where a person could actually pay for themselves and have little to no impact on the bottom line if they were able to obtain grants for this town that were needed and necessary and cost effective. I think that bears some consideration for the very next budget cycle. It doesn't seem like we are going to have any appreciable increase in revenue. And this seems like one of the only streams that we have available to us if we had someone who was doing it in the kind of most efficient way. No offense, Mike. I know you're doing all you can. But again, it's kind of akin to Phil as the facilities building person as well as a superintendent. There are some things that are just not, that shouldn't be your job, but that fall under you because there's no one else that is going to do it. So that's it. Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you. All right, last call on present to speak.
Peter Lutendrich, 97 Trask Road. I want to express two quick concerns. The first is on the budget. I have been attempting since the last Board of Finance meeting to understand where we are and have not succeeded. I don't understand how residents can come to a public hearing and not know where we are as far as what the budget is. I'm hopeful that before the meeting, that information could be available so we can all be prepared.
It is available. It went out on the public notices, newspaper, websites. It's the exact same information as was voted on at the Board of Finance meeting that you attended Thursday night.
Oh, so it hasn't changed. I apologize.
Oh, there are updates working every day, but it's getting better and better. And it was changing at 5 o'clock this afternoon. We can't send out an update like every hour,
Understood.
but it's getting better. If it was getting worse, I'd be much more worried about it.
My second concern is I was hopeful at this point in the budget process, the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen will have some understanding on what the magnitude of the potential school project would be in cost. We hear much about reimbursement and we hear much about the need for speed, but we hear very little about the understanding of what this represents as a cost to the community. And I think like most residents, we're trying to understand, can we afford our regular budget as well as this potentially large project? Is there any expectation of when that might be available?
Well, you attend most of the school building committee meetings, right? So you're seeing the process evolve. The consultants are on board. They're going to analyze. The public's been very clear. They want to hear multiple scenarios researched. That process is going right now. And as you know, it's not there's nothing in the budget that's upcoming for the construction project itself. There is money for savings towards it, but there's nothing in the budget itself for it. So at this point, that is the impact that we know. Going forward, as this process goes on, every single school building committee meeting, they're getting closer and closer to that. So that's the best answer, is keep attending those meetings. The information is going to start percolating, and all the due diligence is trying to be done so that that number can be accurate and more effectively communicated to the public than it was last time.
Thank you.
I think we are all waiting for that information. Anything else? All right,
Move to adjourn.
I second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The meeting is adjourned at 8:03 p.m. Thank you. Thank you all.